going on, everybody? It's I'm back a few minutes later. Um, I don't know, more gaslighting from T-Mobile, but sometimes when I'm going through something like this, hold on, you might see a jerky video while I switch apps here. Um, I don't like to use this app because I can't see whether my face lines up in the video or not. But it allows me to go to other apps and read something to you while I'm talking. It's what I used to use when I was in Jamestown if I took a bunch of notes about what I wanted to talk about, and I would just use this app called Background Video Recorder for Android, which does what it says. It records video in the background while you're looking at another app. And so, yeah, the internet's fucked today. And I found this article. Granted, it goes way back, but I'm just going to read some of the article because it talks about T-Mobile. It basically backs up everything that I've said about T-Mobile. The title of the article is T-Mobile Misleads Home Internet Customers, Employees Say. And it's been updated, but it was published on September 2nd, 2022. So this has been going on for a long time. Claims support reps make false excuses for service that they can't fix. And so it says, after we published a story about my T-Mobile home internet service dying with customer service unable to fix the problem, I got a lot of messages from readers with similar experiences. 3 T-Mobile employees, 2 former and 1 current, who handled the home internet support calls reached out, claiming that the company uses canned excuses like, "We're upgrading the tower," in order to get customers off the phone and pad their stats. So I'm going to skip around in this article, but it says that service reps at T-Mobile are penalized if calls run longer than 600 seconds, or if customers call back about the same problem within a week. And, I don't know what that means in terms of Twitter support, but there's probably stats. So they're just gaslighting you. The goal of a customer service rep at T-Mobile is to get you off the phone. They have 5 to 10 minutes to get you off the phone and to try and fill your head with some bullshit so that you don't call back for a few days. And if you actually try to fix their problem, if you stay on the phone too long, you're at risk of losing your job. So this is coming from the top down. The top down, the leadership of the company knows their service is total fucking garbage. And they literally want the sales or the customer service that they offer is get these fucking pieces of shit off the phone and get them to not just make up some lie so that they don't call back. Tell them that the tower is being upgraded. You know what I mean? So, according to all the sources we spoke to, the company also penalizes support reps. Yeah, if a customer calls back with the same problem within a certain number of days. One rep said 7 days, but the current employee and former employee, the other former employee, said 3 days. So once again, they're incentivized to tell you something that will keep you from calling again for that time period. They had a metric, and their bonus is heavily weighed around not having the customer called back for 3 days. One former employee said, "We were coached into a number of ways to confuse or lie to the customer to prevent them from calling back." In his case, after spending several minutes on the phone with a support call, doing everything from unplugging the device and plugging it back in, taking the SIM card out and putting the SIM card back in, He was put on hold while the rep said he would do a few things to fix the problem, which means the rep's just going to put you on hold and go take another support call, and then after about 5 minutes come back and make up some bullshit about what they did. So the support rep returned and told me that my local cell tower was being upgraded and I shouldn't expect to have service for 48 hours. And that's at the point where this guy canceled his service. Though he was on the phone for nearly 20 minutes, it still felt like the company was trying to give him an excuse because they couldn't actually help. And in regards to the particular error code and the lack of response from T-Mobile as to the specifics of that error, the answer is quite simple. They don't know, the first former employee said. I could tell you stories all day long about calls from customers with issues on their home internet service that never got solved because no one in any of those departments, no matter how high up the chain we went, had any idea how to fix the problem. According to our first former employee source, T-Mobile customer service reps hope that a hard reset, plugging it, unplugging it, and plugging it back in, will do the trick if a customer calls with a problem. The company will often send replacement hardware to appease customers if that doesn't work. Which they did that for me. I told them that it's not going to work. Like, I told them, I'm like, yeah, you can send me a new router, that's fine, but it's not going to fix anything. Because the problem is you. The problem is you. It's not on my end. It's not my house. It's nothing about me. The problem is your problem. But it says here, as we've heard from customers on T-Mobile's forums and Reddit, even this isn't a surefire way to fix connectivity issues. If that doesn't fix it, they have no clue to go from there, and you're typically out of luck. The tower is being upgraded response is a canned response that is given when they have no other answer for what is happening. The former employee said that if the tower near me were really being upgraded, my rep would have told me right away. This is because customer support reps have multiple screens in front of them and they can pull up a real-time map of the service area tied to your address. So if there were a tower outage or upgrade in process, the support rep would present that information to the customer within the first minute of a call. According to the second former employee source, support reps would do whatever they could to find a plausible tower excuse that wasn't a complete lie. They would just zoom out on their computer maps until they could find a tower somewhere that was having issues. If you report slow service or no service, I would query your address and zoom out on the coverage map until I could see a tower that had any work being done on it. Sometimes I might zoom out 200 miles. Our second former employee source said, then I would tell you, it looks like work is being done in your area. Please allow up to 72 hours for the issue to resolve and end the call. Which would prevent you from calling back in 3 days, and therefore my stats won't get messed up because, I didn't fix your problem. We reached out to T-Mobile for comment on our source's accusation that the company's support reps are under pressure to get customers off the phone and therefore are incentivized to mislead them. The initial statement we got back didn't address the issue. We frequently make improvements to our 5G network to support services like home internet. On some occasions, this can cause short interruptions in our service. While extended issues are uncommon and typically last less than 12 hours, we encourage home internet customers to reach out to our award-winning customer care team for support in these cases. However, after we published this article, the company sent a more direct response saying, our care model is designed to put the customer first, which means resolving issues as quickly as possible with the best information at hand. As is the standard in our industry and others, we prioritize NPS to measure our customers' experiences with us And we also rely on efficiency metrics to continually improve how we're delivering the experience. Just corporate bullshit. I don't even know what NPS means. And if that's the response that they're sending somebody, it's just corporate bullshit. Both the current T-Mobile employee and the first former employee attributed the issues T-Mobile internet customers are encountering due to a lack of foresight into the demands and rigors of relying on cellular data for home internet service. Exactly what I told you. They oversold their services and their infrastructure can't handle what they've sold. And so everybody's getting fucked because there's too many devices trying to connect to the same old towers. It says now they're offering home internet in places that technically already had the max amount of users per local capacity, which causes us to think those customer complaints are about to get even worse. And this was back in 2022 that this article came out. The company did not take time to become subject matter experts in the industry and did not properly parse out the details of potential issues they would run into before launching headfirst into the home internet world. They just wanted to be part of the game and have that extra perk to offer customers, and they wanted to be able to say they were the first to offer nationwide 5G home internet. Other readers reached out to me, including Chris, who wrote about the IP connection failure error message that I received, theorizing that the company may not have enough capacity on the newer towers that support the home internet service. I was told that it has a lot to do with towers that still exist in the wild that aren't capable of handling connections for multiple reasons. There are still Sprint towers that need to be fully integrated and older towers that just don't support enough connections to be reliable. All this upgrading happens with little to no notice because they don't think it's necessary when there are towers nearby that should be a good fallback. Not so true with the home internet users. It's worth considering that the router for a home internet connection connects with different parameters than would a cell phone. A cell phone crawls the network seamlessly, changing from cell to cell that is covered by whichever tower. The internet service requests a connection in a bit different way, not expecting to be on the move, but indeed expecting to use more bandwidth. So it's just like I said, when you're on your phone and you're connected to the internet, your phone is literally bouncing from tower to tower, from cell to cell, from repeater to repeater, and it's just constantly changing how it's connected. Especially when you're on the move. And to you, it's seamless. You don't see it happening and you don't feel it happening because you're using your phone, you're driving along, maybe you're a passenger in a car, and for the most part, it just works. It stops working when you're in an area with no connectivity. But when it comes down to, you're in an area with no connectivity and it just works. Or that it doesn't work. But when you're in an area where you have some way to connect, it will just seamlessly switch towers. It will switch repeaters. It will just constantly look for the best signal and latch on to that. But these home internet routers, they expect to connect to one tower, to one thing. And they're not constantly looking around for something new to connect to because they're technically not supposed to be moved around. And when you're on your home internet, you're using more bandwidth. Most of the time, people on their cell phones aren't using anywhere near as much bandwidth as they do in their house. And so, and it says here, the guy who used to work for T-Mobile says, when there are multiple towers nearby, and not all of them are fully compatible with the home internet service, you're likely not going to get far enough to be assigned an IP address. And for some reason, it connects to an older Sprint tower, or a tower that's at limit for user capacity, and there will be issues. Your device will ask for access and get denied. An incompatible tower may not be configured for the requests made by your device. A perfectly good T-Mobile tower may already be at capacity, and so your device sits in line hoping for a connection. And it might not try over and over, and it becomes necessary to restart the device again. So this guy asked his T-Mobile source about the possibility, and he said it could be a factor in some customers losing connectivity suddenly. Another reader said he got T-Mobile internet back during the pilot days, and he ran into the same errors as this guy. He's been through 5 or 6 gateways, and all they ever tell him when he complains is that they're upgrading the tower. And they've been telling him that for 6 months. He said his iPhone doesn't have issues with connectivity in the same areas, but his home internet device can't get a good connection at all. He says, I've been waiting for over 6 months for them to resolve this issue. Eventually, I told them to cancel my service because I'm not paying for this bullshit when I can't use it. My issue is my location doesn't have access to, good internet providers like Spectrum or cable or fiber optic. All I can get is a landline, which costs almost $200 a month and can only provide 18 megabits per second download. So he basically lives out in the country, and all he can get is DSL. And DSL is pretty terrible, especially out in the country. So anyway, this is a long article, and I'm not going to read every single word of it. I'll put a link to it in the description below the video down here if you want to read it. But right here it says, when the T-Mobile internet service works, it's fantastic. In this guy's case, the 500 plus megabit downloads and 70 megabit uploads I get are incredible and far superior to what my previous provider, Spectrum, was able to provide. So this is the guy out in the country. However, the prospect of unreliable service was enough to scare me away, sending me back into Spectrum's open arms. So he basically was a country hillbilly who decided to try the T-Mobile service because the landline that he can get, the only one he has access to, is too slow. That's a problem out in the country. That would have stopped me from moving to my house out next to the waterfall out in Amish country, but that would have killed the deal before I even put the down payment on the property. So within a day or two of finding that house, I was on the phone with the internet provider and on their website and ordering internet service to start on the day I moved in, because they told me they could get me up to 1 gigabit speeds. And I didn't pay for that level of service, but I had about 400 to 500 megabits per second download speeds the whole time I lived there. And they were really expensive because out in the country they have a monopoly, and so these cable companies rape you when you live out in the country. When you live in a city and you have 2 or 3 options to pick from for home internet, they can't charge you as much because now there's competition. So that's an advantage of living in the city when you need good internet versus living out in Hillbillyville. But, I would love to live out in the country again. It's just hit or miss in terms of being able to live out in the country and get good internet. But anyway, that's the gist of what's going on in this article. And you can go to Reddit forums. You can go to different places online, and you can read about the experiences that people are having with bad internet all across the board with T-Mobile. And it all boils down to the same issue. Their technology's not up to where it needs to be. They've oversold, and they've sold more devices than they can support. and they don't know how to fix it when it breaks because it literally is a problem with a tower. The devices work fine. I've proved that for the last 3 or 4 days. In fact, I had a Zoom meeting yesterday and I had no problems during the Zoom meeting. There was some choppy video, but it ended up being on my client's side of the spectrum because he has a slow Wi-Fi in his office and he didn't plug in his Ethernet cable. And as soon as he plugged in his Ethernet cable, we had smooth video back and forth. I was having no issues yesterday during that Zoom meeting. Whenever I did a speed test over the last few days, 300 megabits per second or faster. All of a sudden, I wake up today, 0.18 megabits per second. It's unusable. I can't do any of my work if that is the speed of my internet today. And so I'm at the mercy of T-Mobile whenever they decide to fix the thing. And I'm just going to go from there. But I think I'm going to go on to X right now. I'm going to see what the latest response is from the rep from T-Mobile. And it's probably going to be, we're working on the towers in your area. Please be patient with us. So with that, I'm going to say peace out. We'll talk later.